Good morning, everybody. Nathan Weinberg with MW Real Estate Company, coming to you from a project here in East Nashville, Tennessee. And this is going to be the first of a series that we do on property types, home ownership, property disposition, um, buying and selling real estate, and moreover, as a homeowner, what you ought to be looking for. And so today I thought we would start with just a basic course in what is property and how is it different from place to place. This will be quick, and there's a great deal more to it than what I'm going to share, but this will give you basic information to help you understand what kind of property you're interested in, maybe what you're buying. And today we'll talk about those things. So there's a few different property classes that you can be thinking about as you're buying. There can be single family homes. That's a traditional standalone residence that you would see on a regular lot anywhere around the country. There's a condominium. Condominiums are a type of shared ownership in which you might own the walls in, but you might be stacked on top of one another. So maybe there's 10, 15, even 100 other condos around you. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. There's something that is often referred to as a horizontal property regime. And this is a system in which you will see different properties that share, two properties share a single piece of land. And this is an interesting use of property around the country right now. Additionally, there can be co-ops, there can be zero lot lines. So there's lots of different options as you start looking for things. And I'm going to dive into each and its advantages and disadvantages really quickly. Single family property. So a single family residence has the great advantage of you owning and operating everything yourself. You don't share anything with anybody else, and everything that you own on that land is yours. The only rules you need to follow are municipal, state, and federal rules. And so also, if you are part of a homeowners association, you might have to follow those rules. The disadvantages to that is that nobody's there to help you. Nobody's there to help insure it. Nobody's there to help you do anything else with it. So it's yours. You're responsible for it from start to finish. That's the simplest form of property ownership that exists. Condominiums. Condominiums can take many different forms. They can be townhouse condominiums, so everything's sort of stacked in a row. They can be vertically integrated condominiums, which are more traditional condominiums. They look like apartment buildings. And a condominium says it's a single piece of property, but we all own a little piece of it ourselves. So we own a share of the ground that it's on, in addition to the actual walls in of what we're sitting in. So our bedrooms, our kitchens, all of that. The advantages and disadvantages to condominium ownership are: one, the advantage is that you're sharing ownership. So you're sharing maintenance responsibilities, you're sharing insurance responsibilities, you're sharing all sorts of special assessment responsibilities. Sometimes there's other types of recreational facilities in condominium buildings, and you're sharing the ownership and upkeep of those things. And so you're often owning something that remains relevant for quite some time without you having to pay a lot of attention to it. The disadvantages here are that you are subject to the rules and regulations of that condominium association, much like a homeowners association. Additionally, if you want to make alterations to your unit that might affect another unit in the building, you have to get permission to do so. That's a good idea, and it doesn't hurt anything. Additionally, there's different insurance requirements. So they have something called a walls-in policy, and a walls-in policy can be of great service and advantage to you. Additionally, the disadvantages to condominium homeownership are that you're often right next to somebody else. And when you're right next to somebody else, that means you can hear them. Oftentimes you are doing things together that require a lot of your attention. So that's a condominium property. Additionally, there are other types of property to be thinking about. So an HPR, a horizontal property regime, is going to be a piece of property that is where a single family home might normally have gone. Now there's two structures. And so sometimes they're connected, sometimes they're disconnected. And how that works is everybody owns the land collectively, and then they own the piece of dirt that their specific property sits on. And you might have several people that own specific pieces of that individual property in addition to a share of the overall property. Same disadvantages as a condominium sometimes, but some of the advantages of single family homeownership. These are just some of the top types of properties that you can buy and own as a homeowner. And so I'll get into these further and more in depth in future episodes. But I wanted to give you just a sense of the different types of basic property that you can buy as a homeowner. And as a seller or even as a realtor, maybe this gives you just a quick primer on what these different things mean. I'm Nathan Weinberg with MW Real Estate. If you have more questions, talk to a licensed real estate agent. MW has many, many realtors that are happy to help you today. And I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.